Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 22nd. Right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery. You can see a lot of sunshine across the region here, but we are going to be kicking up some thunderstorms over the next few days. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the warm-up coming here. Looks like we're going to get warm across Pacific Northwest. We'll look at the extended forecast and see just how warm and how long will it last. Taking a look at Paradise, Mount Rainier, the visitor center. Looks like it's melted off all its recent snowfall there. You can see some old snow still here, but nice, glorious blue sky out there. What a day to be up there at Mount Rainier visiting. This is looking at Montana and Idaho. They're going to have thunderstorms training over the next few days over certain areas here. So there is going to be some flooding concerns here, and watch out for that lightning and some of the gusty winds out there as well. Maybe some small hail also. This is looking at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. You can kind of see the yin and yang thing going on here as the ridge starts to build across British Columbia here, and the trough hanging out here across the Intermountain West and California. So if we put this into motion, you can see the ridge really starting to build as we go in towards early next week, and the trough hanging on down here across the Intermountain West. So we're probably going to warm up quite nicely. This trough not nearly as progressive as it would be probably in the fall or winter months here. So it's actually probably just going to help build some of this ridging here across the Pacific Northwest, really amplify some of this ridging here. So we may stay warm for a while here. More on that here in a moment. This is looking at 2-meter temperature anomaly. European last night's run. You'll see as we scroll on in through the weekend and into early next week, things really warming up here across British Columbia and staying below normal here across a lot of the Intermountain West. Here you can see that boundary set up across Montana, Idaho, and Oregon. Now, this is looking at lightning flash density potential here for the next few days. The European, as we go through today, you can see this activity kind of kicking off across the Cascades. Can't rule out a thunderstorm across some of the Olympic Mountains as well. And we're scrolling through Friday, and we're going to do something similar. Even some of the areas into the lower mainland here of BC and western Washington could get a thunderstorm here as we go through tomorrow. We'll check that out tomorrow morning again, and we'll also look at what the HRRR has to say in a moment, the high-resolution rapid refresh. Going on in through Saturday again, you can see the thunderstorm activity mainly across the higher terrain, BC, Washington, Cascades, but you can also see it impinging on southern Oregon there, some of the Blue Mountains, Idaho, Rockies, Montana here. So summertime is arriving here. It's that time of year we can get these thunderstorms going daily across some of the area. And this trough's going to be hanging out here, helping out with that lift and some of that thunderstorm activity. This is looking at lightning flash density potential on the HRRR, the high resolution rapid refresh. This one runs every hour, but I have it on 12Z here because 12Z goes out 48 hours. Every 6 hours, this model runs out a full 48 hours. Otherwise, it only runs out about 18 hours. So you can see the thunderstorm activity today across some of the Cascades, maybe even the Olympic Mountains, some of BC there possibly. Now watch as we go to tomorrow. You can see some of this motion as it moves from east to west. Could come out over the lowlands of some of western Washington and the lower mainland of BC here. And you kind of see the spin in the atmosphere just continuing there through on Montana. And some of these storms are going to be dropping heavy rain and some flooding concerns across some of Idaho Rockies and for Montana as well. This is looking at day one categorical outlook. You can see it does include the Cascades. Tomorrow does include western Washington there. And day 3 backs it off mainly Cascades East, North Cascades East, I should say there. It includes eastern Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and this would include British Columbia as well. Now this is looking at Seattle. You can see we were at 71 yesterday, just 1 degree below average here, and we're probably going to jump above average today and stay there for the foreseeable future. We'll take a look at those temperatures here in a moment. We're not going to be going record temperature territory right now, but you can see why, because remember 2021, that's coming up. That was June 26, 27, and 28 of 2021, where we hit 3 straight days of 100 plus at SeaTac. We're not going to be anywhere close to that, but we are going to warm up. This is the national blend of models here. The daily 2-meter temperature, you can see Seattle at 76. Look at the Willamette Valley getting really warm as you go through the day today. Maybe even some upper 80s showing up there. Nice and toasty. Look at Seattle tomorrow, 81, warming up in eastern Washington as well. And then Saturday we drop back down a bit, but still looking like maybe an above average day there. And then we bounce back again Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can see we stay relatively warm here across the region, but no record-breaking heat looking likely with this next warm-up. But it does look like it may hang out through the future as we go all the way through the following weekend. I mean, you can see these above average conditions and pretty warm across much of the region. Now, taking a look here, this is the European, and again, Seattle's about 71, 72 during this time frame, maybe 73, and you can see the above average conditions here as we go on in through early next week. This is looking at the European ensemble members versus the GFS ensemble members. These are both averages here, and you can kind of see that troughing off the west coast of North America, the ridging building in towards BC. Really good model agreement there with a deep trough over western Alaska there, allowing the amplification of this ridge and the troughing here down across the Intermountain West, and it just kind of hangs on here. You can kind of see it getting a little precariously close here towards the end of the run, out towards mid next week here, but not too worried about it yet. The thing's pretty far out there, and this is probably still going to be bringing warm air and ridging here across a lot of British Columbia at this, at least what it looks like now. Now, this is the GFS, Seattle Tacoma International Airport, last night's run. Check out the control run in some of these members here. Look at all these 80s. And then you get up towards 90, even above 90, way off into the extended. I mean, it's purely fantasy right now, but it is kind of interesting to see this potential prolonged, fairly warm period here for a lot of the Pacific Northwest. But again, you got to take it with a grain of salt right now. It's just an interesting signal, although the European is kind of on that as well. This is the GFS, the higher resolution version here. This is the deterministic model run, but you can see these well above average conditions, potentially pushing into the 80s here as we go on in through next week. And again, just something to watch at this point. Don't start hanging your hat on these temperatures just yet. This is looking at 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook, and you can see the bullseye here across Pacific Northwest all the way through July 1st and 8 to 14 day through the 5th of July. Look at that bullseye here across Pacific Northwest with the above average temperatures here. So there is something to that signal. 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook. This would be because of that trough here hanging out across the Intermountain West, bringing daily thunderstorm activities to the summer area July 1st. And this goes through the 5th of July, kind of highlighting Montana, Wyoming, and a little bit of the Pacific Northwest here as well. Now, this is the drought monitor here. We've been going over this. Actually, they updated this here. Now they include much of the Cascades here of Washington, except the extreme southern here. A little bit of a break there, but this has been added on recently. So you can see that moderate drought across the Cascades, including some of Skagit and Whatcom counties and even some of extreme northeast Washington there. So hopefully that doesn't play into our forest fire danger here coming up. I just clicked on Washington there so you can kind of see where that moderate drought lies. And strangely enough, eastern Washington not doing too bad. Still no drought in a lot of these counties out there, which is good for the agriculture. Now, this is looking at a moving diagram here of the sea surface temperature anomaly. You can imagine this here would be along the coast of South America, and this is where we measure El Nino, La Nina conditions across the equatorial Pacific here. And you can kind of see where we were in this La Nina conditions there, and now you can see us warm up towards the neutral conditions here. But I'm going to put this into motion here, and you'll clearly see this running timeline of how El Nino has started to develop there across the central Pacific, and La Nina is well in our rearview mirror here, and we are warming up across the central Pacific, almost certainly headed towards an El Nino. So just kind of an interesting chart there. As I scroll back and forth, you can kind of see the progression of this developing El Nino. Now, this is the Canadian model here, and a couple things I wanted to show you. Not only just the development of El Nino here, but it looks like the waters are going to warm up off the Pacific Northwest here, if you believe this model run here. So you can look at August, September, October, November, December, January, February. You can kind of see the warming of the waters here across the Gulf of Alaska up towards, Vancouver Island, BC, Washington, Oregon coast there, all the way in through next spring, which is really high confidence that we would be looking at above average conditions overall. Of course, you're going to have your periods where we get storms, and the storm track will move through the area, and we're going to get some below average temperatures at times across the area. But for the most part, we probably will be above average as we head through the winter and next spring months there. And you can also see the development of that El Nino as I scroll back and forth there. Look at November, December. Very El Nino-ish classic signature there across the central Pacific. So interesting time here, folks. We went through 3 La Ninas in a row, and now we're going to potentially a strong El Nino, and we'll continue to watch that closely here. And tropical tidbits, I like looking at this one here too. So you can click on some of this some of these maps here, and you can really see how the Pacific Ocean works here. You can see the current. So you get this cold water current that comes down the west coast of North America, and you can see how it moves out and towards Hawaii here. And so it takes a long time for that water to really warm up. And this actually saves Hawaii from a lot of hurricane activity. To get a strong hurricane into Hawaii, you need one that tracks perfectly down here through the warmer water. And then you need some kind of trough to allow that to move north and back over the islands, which is typical of how Hurricane Iniki back in 1992 affected the Hawaiian Islands. It moved south of the Hawaiian Islands, picked up into a trough, and then came across Kauai there and did some pretty good damage to some of the island out there and a little bit to Oahu as well. But you can see why you don't get some of those hurricanes there across some of the Pacific with that cold water moving down. Now, El Nino tends to warm these waters up a bit here. So then when you warm these waters up a bit here, you get a better gradient here, and you get this subtropical jet stream that moves southwest across Pacific towards California as a general rule there. So that's why El Nino kind of brings those warmer conditions to a lot of the west coast of North America here, and including the Pacific Northwest. Versus a La Nina, when you build up this very warm water here, you get a stronger jet stream out there, and the gradient is stronger here. Then you get this ridging in turn here across the Pacific, which allows for more, some more cooler, at least a more variable jet stream here, and more potential for more cooler weather here across Pacific Northwest. But during El Nino, you get more of a typical jet stream here, which doesn't allow for as much variability, and a bit warmer here for much of the West Coast. So we'll watch how that goes, on in through the fall and winter months. Of course, we're looking at things daily and breaking it down daily, so we're not going to get surprised too much here, but don't be surprised that next winter and spring are much warmer here across Pacific Northwest. So anyway, this is looking at Nino 3.4. You can see this will fluctuate as we go on in towards the fall and winter months. We did go all the way up towards almost moderate El Nino territory here. And once this maintains for 3 months above the 0.5 barrier there, it will be officially considered El Nino condition. So we're well on our way here, probably towards a moderate or maybe even a strong El Nino coming up here. But anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Leave some comments below. We'll continue to watch this. Maybe we'll get some thunderstorm activity coming off the Cascades for some areas tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. You know how it is around here. These thunderstorms can be pretty fickle here, especially when you're talking about the western Washington, the lower elevations here of British Columbia and Oregon as well. So we'll watch that in some more detail tomorrow. Hope you guys are liking these videos, and I'll talk to you guys then.